Now, Zimbabweans will see a new currency in circulation within the next 2 weeks. And this, according to Central Bank Chief John Mangudya, that it will address crippling liquidity shortages in the economy and regain monetary policy control after years of US dollarisation. Now, this is all happening as the country is also grappling with inflation that's believed to be over 1,000% at this stage. And perhaps introducing these new currency notes may even exacerbate the inflation situation. Well, to tell us a little bit more about the Zimbabwean situation in its current form is former Finance Ministry spokesperson and often political commentator, Acie Lumumba. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for allowing me to come. And I mean, first of all, my condolences. I know the fraternity in this country lost our Kolisani. From 702 today, my condolences for that, and of course, good luck tomorrow when South Africa goes
thanks so much
to the World Cup
for
final. So we're all rooting for you. So you don't just carry South Africa tomorrow; you carry all of us.
And the African flag, indeed.
Absolutely.
All right. So you worked in the Ministry of Finance for about 5 minutes, but
I didn't stay long enough to get the Wi-Fi call.
Yeah. But this new currency that's coming in, currency notes, because the Reserve Bank governor was saying it's not a new currency, it's just new notes to hard cash to help with the liquidity crisis in the country. In your view, is this, some economists are saying this is going to fuel more inflation. What are your thoughts?
That it's another bandage. Zimbabwe is a sick patient. And this patient has gone into the ICU. When they got into the ICU, the doctor is told your patient has got lung failure, your patient has got heart failure, your patient has got cancer, your patient's got a headache, your patient's got HIV and AIDS. And the doctor has to decide, do I put a papaverine injection to keep the patient alive, or do I start putting bandages around the patient? So there's a lot of things wrong with Zimbabwe as far as the economy is concerned. There's a lot of things we have to try. Some will work and some will don't. Some will not. When you introduce a new currency, pay attention to what they say they are trying to address. They're not fixing the economy. They're trying to address a liquidity shortage. Now, what is a liquidity shortage? It means there is simply not enough physical money that is moving from hand to hand. That is the particular issue they're trying to solve. It's not the economic solution, because the economic solution has got nothing to do with liquidity. In fact, it's got nothing to do with a currency. I'll give you an example. South Africa is a country which has the rand currency. You don't need to print more rands for the South African economy to grow or for the South African economy to do better. You just need to be able to pay attention to what can the rand do, and can it do more.
So this is just hard cash in the hand that is, I won't say replacing, but is being used more on the phones at this stage.
Well, look, it's another not great idea from the Ministry of Finance. The problem is deeper than that, and that's why I said it's a bandage. They're trying to deal with the end of the problem instead of dealing with how we got here. The correct thing that government is supposed to be doing is paying attention to entrepreneurs. Now, unfortunately, Zimbabwe is a country right now where when an entrepreneur does well, they will attack them. So when a young black boy...
Who is they?
Well, let me give you an example. I'll give, when we went through a phase where we had the Econets come up, where Strive Masiwa started Econet, we all know what government did to Strive Masiwa, and as a result, he can't even be in the country. James Makamba came up in the same generation. We all saw what government did to James Makamba. As a result, he's still in a wrangle today for his company. We move past that generation. We go to the generation of your Nigel Chanakiras who opened banks, Xavier Kasukweres who opened Cornwall, Kudakwashe Tagure who opened Sakunda. And you just look at what they're doing to Sakunda today. I mean, you've got a whole government who sits in parliament to discuss a private sector player who they are in business with.
But this is a government that you campaigned for and helped put into power. So what's changed for you?
I think it's a lack of focus. I don't regret that I campaigned for President Emmerson Mnangagwa, neither do I regret that I am ZANU-PF. But just because I support the Springboks does not mean that I support what every player does on the pitch, does it? Just because tomorrow we're all watching them at the World Cup, it doesn't mean every player mustn't get substituted. Sometimes players have got to get substituted. I don't believe we're performing as well as we could perform as a government, but worst of all, I don't believe we're performing as well as we could perform as a country. As long as you are targeting entrepreneurs, business. Business doesn't grow when you attack it. Government has to get out of the way and stop attacking every young business or every
to what end? What are the attacks meant to achieve?
Because, and that's why I particularly use the word focus. I'll give you an example. When the former Minister of Finance, Tendai Biti, was in office, he's the one who signed off Command Agriculture. This beast that Zimbabwe calls Command Agriculture. Before they were called Treasury bills and they were called, and it was under the Presidential Input Scheme. It's Tendai Biti, who was Minister of Finance, who went on to commission the program. It's now the same Tendai Biti who's turning around saying Command Agriculture is the reason the economy is not building. Now, when you sell that narrative and you're the opposition, and embassies hear this, what has ended up happening is now America has heard this, and America has now joined in the conversation of, oh, this is a bad organization, this is a bad company, and they pick one company, they've obsessed about one company. So to what end, to answer your question, as long as you are in the way of growth of businesses, the country cannot grow. Government cannot grow an economy. And that's what we're trying to do right now. You've got MDC and ZANU-PF contesting on who can grow the economy. Neither can do it.
What needs to happen straight away to bring down inflation and to grow the economy? We hear the president saying all the right things, Zimbabwe is open for business, but somehow investors are just not coming to the party.
Because I think you phrased it right. The president is saying all the right things. The president needs to start doing all the right things. Number one, he has to get out of the way of business. While it is good to see the president take chieftainship on every business conversation happening in the country, government actually has to go out of the way. And I'll explain the immediate things you have to do. You don't raise taxes when businesses are shutting down. That's number one. You have to lower the taxes. You don't raise bank interest rates up when people are trying to access finance. You have to create an environment where you understand we no longer have the dinosaur economy we used to have, where the only people who wanted to go to a bank were people with title deeds. When a young entrepreneur goes to a bank today, they don't have a title deed. Their parents probably don't have a title deed. So you need financial inclusion that allow and make room for young people, for young businesses, SMEs particularly, to be able to access finance. We're seeing some of this starting to happen, but the government is in the way of it. Again, if you look at some of the initiatives that are happening through Command Agriculture, that's a way of letting people in. Because Command Agriculture does not ask me to bring a title deed for me to access inputs. It says, bring the land you have, we will give you the inputs, you will farm, we will off-take the arrangement, and then we will trade it off. This happens even in South Africa. It's the fundamental reason why your mineral industry in this country does well. You just need to change the color of the people doing it in this country, but the system is perfect.
All right, so finally, just how difficult is it for the average Zimbabwean at the moment? After the last round of petrol price hikes, I heard that a doctor's monthly salary would only buy him 2 tanks of petrol.
It's very difficult for the average Zimbabwean right now. In fact, sometimes I wonder, I consider myself fairly privileged and I sometimes struggle. So I wonder, people who are not as privileged as me, how are they getting on with it? So I think it is very difficult. And if we want to have a contest about difficulty, we will win that contest hands down. I think what we really need to focus on is how do we get that Zimbabwean out? And the only solution is we have to open up the playing field and have more miners, more builders. We need more plumbers. We need more people who can do things, not more people who've got certificates. Right now, Zimbabweans can give you certificates. But if you ask them, can you make a candle? They can't. If you ask them, can you make a light bulb? They can't. This is why we have to stop being obsessed with politicians, whether it's ZANU-PF President Emmerson Mnangagwa or it's the stupidity being propelled in the opposition to try and get Emmerson Mnangagwa out. The place we really need to focus is the young entrepreneurs. That's what every Zimbabwean needs to do right now.
Acie Lumumba, thanks so much indeed. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but thanks for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Always a pleasure.
All right, that's Zimbabwe, situation there. But let's find out what's happening in the world of sport with Palace.